The millionaire doctor reveals a shocking secret to his ex-wife during her delivery. The sterile smell of antiseptic hung thick in the air, mixing with the hushed whispers of the delivery room. Dr. Ethan Cole, the millionaire surgeon, stood rigid by the wall, eyes glued to Mia, his ex-wife. She was in her element, directing the chaos of labor with skill and grace. Her hair, pulled back tightly, glistened with sweat, and even in the throes of pain, her lips formed a determined line, a stark contrast to the electric tension crackling between them. Ethan's heart raced, pounding against his chest, so loud he was sure everyone could hear. They were here, in this intimate hell, bound by blood and their shared history. Yet a chasm widened between them. He glanced at the clock. Time ticked mercilessly as Mia endured the rhythmic waves of pain, and he could no longer suppress the secret clawing at his insides. His hands trembled, a slight shake that didn't go unnoticed. In his surgical scrubs, he looked every bit the successful doctor he was, sharp, polished, and a millionaire. But beneath that exterior lay a tortured soul, one tortured by guilt and fear. His world had splintered years ago, shattering during the most unexpected moments. Moments when love had twisted into something ugly. "No," Mia cried out suddenly, breaking through his thoughts. "It's too much." Her voice wavered, a mix of determination and despair. The delivery staff hovered close, ready to assist, while a nurse whispered soothing words, each one a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. "Mia," he said, stepping forward, but his voice caught in his throat. She looked at him, pain flashing in her eyes, but there was something else too: familiarity, longing. Memories flickered, late nights spent dreaming of the future, laughter over takeout dinners, shattered by the silence of unspoken truths. The room fell silent, save for Mia's heavy breathing. Ethan felt the gravity of the moment press down on him. He had to tell her what he'd hidden all these years. Her cries pierced through him like a knife. He couldn't ignore his secret any longer. If only he could reach out and hold her hand, reassure her that everything would be all right. But what would he say? He stepped closer, emotions swirling inside him, anxiety, regret, love. "Mia, But before he could express the raw truth that held him captive, the door swung open. "Ethan!" It was his sister, her voice sharp with urgency. "We need you in the OR. It's urgent." Every instinct in him screamed to stay, to be there for Mia, to tell her everything. But duty pulled him away like a magnet. Just a minute," he shouted back, desperation creeping into his voice. Mia looked at him, confusion mixing with pain, her brow furrowing. The clock kept ticking. A loud cry erupted, breaking through the tension, a baby's wail, sharp and demanding. Relief washed over the room, but for Ethan, the emotions were a turbulent sea. Did that cry herald new beginnings, or fresh heartbreak? He was torn between the urgency of his career and the life-changing truth he carried. As the nurse handed there, tottered to Mia, the unspoken fears hung thick in the air. Could he share his secret now? Would it bind them together, or drive them apart? "Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have recorded that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Mia cradled the baby in her arms, the cries fading into soft whimpers as she gazed down at the tiny face. Ethan's heart swelled. He had never seen anything more beautiful. In this chaotic moment, he felt an unshakable connection, a thread pulling him back to her. But as another wave of pain gripped Mia, it shattered his brief sense of hope. Her breaths were short, her face strained. "Ethan," she gasped, her eyes locking onto his with desperation. "I need you." He opened his mouth to respond, but the words tangled in his throat. Just as he took a step forward, an urgent flurry erupted around them. A doctor burst into the room, urgency spilling from every corner of his demeanor. "We have a situation." The sound echoed off sterile walls, grabbing everyone's attention. Ethan's gut twisted. He glanced at Mia, seeing fear flicker in her eyes as the medical staff surrounded her. Their movements swift and practiced. "What's happening?" he demanded, but he was met with silence. "Ethan, help." Mia's voice quivered, fear etched in her features like cracking glass. He felt paralyzed, torn between the chaos before him and the instinct to run to her side. Suddenly, there was a commotion near the door. A nurse rushed in, her expression bleak. "Dr. Cole, we need you in the OR now. It's urgent. It's your sister." A cold wave washed over him. "What do you mean? What's wrong?" Panic threaded through his voice. His sister was like a second heartbeat to him. This was a crushing weight on his chest. The nurse sighed, trembling slightly. "She collapsed. It's serious, Ethan." He felt his insides twist violently. Time seemed to slow. Mia's face morphed from pain to confusion, and dread filled the air, heavy like a storm about to break. "Go, go," she urged, her eyes shimmering with tears. "You have to help her." But as he turned to leave, the delivery team's voices clashed with an urgency he couldn't ignore. "We need to stabilize her," they shouted. And then came a scream from Mia. Raw and jagged like glass shattering. "Ethan, don't leave me." His heart raced. But before he could respond, a sudden burst echoed through the room. The sound of machinery blaring, monitors going haywire. A sharp intake of breath from the room froze him. Every moment stretched out, taut with dread. Within seconds, the flurry of activity quieted. A nurse frantically raised her hand. "We've lost the pulse." Her voice rang loud, breaking the tense silence like a hammer on glass. Ethan stumbled back as if he'd been struck. His worst fear materialized in moments. It hung in the air like a nightmare. Mia's eyes widened, a flicker of realization sparking within. No, no, no. The room was suddenly filled with frantic movement. "Start compressions," someone barked. "Get the crash cart." Ethan felt paralyzed. His sister, Mia. His heart ached with a wrenching fear. Then, amidst the chaos, the doctor's voice cut through. "Ethan, you need to choose." The words hung heavy, and Ethan's world began to tilt dangerously. He was being pulled in two directions, each choice laced with a thread of heartbreak. A choice defined by loss and consequence. One mother, one sister. The weight crushed him. In that harrowing moment, Mia's next words hit him like lightning. I know why you stayed away all those years." Shock pierced through him, his heart racing as he spun back to her. Questions and horror flooded his mind. What did she mean? How could she possibly know? Before he could grasp it, another voice chimed in, cutting through the tension. "You had no idea, did you?" The room went silent again, the gravity of the unknown looming large. Ethan's heart thundered. What secrets had he buried? What truth was unraveling before him? Mia's look turned fierce, determined. "No more lies, Ethan. You need to decide." The twisting moment hung in silence. Choices lay bare, and regardless of everything he thought he knew, a dark shadow loomed ahead. The room swirled with chaos, a dance of urgency and fear. Ethan's heart raced as Mia's voice cut through the noise, demanding clarity, demanding him. I know why you stayed away all those years." Her eyes blazed, revealing a truth that threatened to shatter everything. "What do you mean?" he gasped, his pulse quickening. The room felt too small, every breath suffocated by dread. He could see shock and confusion ripple through the staff. They were all stuck in this moment, uncertain and raw. The machines beeped wildly, a symphony of anxiety that pierced the air. Mia drew in a shaky breath. I found out about you and Jenna." Her voice trembled like fine glass, shattering Ethan's composure. Jenna. His sister's name echoed like a death knell. You left me because of her. Ethan's world tilted. Anger flared, but so did a sense of bewilderment. Jenna? Why was she being dragged into this? That's not. I know everything, Mia interrupted, her voice rising like a tidal wave. You thought I didn't see? The texts, the late nights, the way you looked at her? Her breath hitched as pain and fury collided. Before he could respond, another scream pierced the tension. Code Blue, we need to intubate now. A nurse's voice rang out, slicing through their confrontation, pulling everyone's focus. Mia's face went pale. Ethan, go! It came out harsher than intended, but he felt tethered, unable to leave her side. The clock ticked ominously. His sister, his world, was fighting for breath down the hall. How could he choose? Then, like a flash of lightning, the doctor's voice broke through. Dr. Cole, now! Ethan's shoulders tightened, but suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. The sound of metal hitting the ground reverberated like thunder. Ethan whipped his head around, heart pounding in his ears. A figure appeared, stumbling through the doorway. A man in a white lab coat, his face streaked with blood. Ethan's stomach dropped at the sight. Dr. Cole, it's Jenna. Confusion morphed into terror as the world around him faded. What happened? It came out as a strangled whisper. Car accident. She's critical. The man stumbled forward, nearly collapsing. She asked for you before. His words trailed off, leaving a silence so thick it nearly suffocated. Mia's breath quickened. Ethan, go! She cried, desperation coloring her voice. You need to help her! But the moment felt like it was stretching, pulling. He was a man torn apart, standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure of where to leap. How could he decide between the two women he loved? As Ethan turned to race for the door, a medic shouted from behind, "Sequence the next steps. Prepare the DNR." Ethan froze, the letters crashing into him like boulders. DNR, do not resuscitate. His heart sank and he felt the ground shift beneath him. No, the word ripped from his throat, raw and anguished. You can't do that. Mia's face blanched, realization dawning. Ethan, what do you mean? I didn't sign that. I didn't allow that. Panic surged through him. Had he really lost that right? Had someone taken it away? Suddenly, the nurse shook her head, whispering urgently, Ethan, we need a decision now. The room closed in on him, the walls thickening like a heavy blanket. Choices spread like tentacles, dark and gnarly, wrapping around his throat. He could feel the weight of every gaze, the expectations, the fear. And then the stark truth hurtled at him. Jenna hadn't just collapsed. She was injured, but in the frantic blur of motherhood and secrets, had Ethan pushed them both to the edge? Ethan, Mia's voice cracked, pulling him back from the precipice. You need to choose what's best for them, for all of us. Tears welled through his eyes, but fury ignited him. You think I've abandoned you both? You have no idea. Silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating. All eyes lingered on Ethan as he teetered on the brink of choice. Something dark and twisted reverberated in the air, and as he looked between the two women he loved, one fighting for her life in the corner, and the other a mere breath away from him, anguish clenching his heart, he felt the weight of decisions hanging heavy on his soul. What was real? What had he unleashed? He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. The silence was deafening, and in that moment the ground beneath him felt as if it were splitting open, ready to swallow him whole. Ethan's heart thundered in his chest, the weight of Mia's accusation hanging in the air, thick and suffocating. He opened his mouth, ready to fight against her accusations, but her desperation stilled him. The panic in her eyes grounded him in that moment. This was not just about him anymore. Mia, it's not. But before he could explain, another voice sliced through the tension, a doctor rushing into the room, face pale. We need you in the OR. It's urgent. A ripple of panic spread through the staff. The urgency of the situation struck like a lightning bolt. Ethan, your sister. The doctor's voice trailed off, his expression grim and urgent. Without thinking, Ethan spun on his heel, fear twisting his stomach into knots. "Jenna!" He started toward the door, but Mia's cry stopped him cold. "Ethan, wait!" Her voice pierced through all the chaos, holding him back, but he couldn't stay. Jenna could be dying. His feet moved against his will toward his sister, his heart racing. "Go!" Mia shouted, the desperation cracking through her determination. His pulse raced harder. He charged down the hallway, the world blurring, a frantic rush of white coats and beeping machines swirling around him. Behind him, he heard a muffled shout from Mia, but he forced it out of his mind. Jenna needed him. Then he froze, mid-stride. A figure stepped out from the shadows, blocking his path. It was Jenna, but something was off. Blood smeared across her forehead, her eyes wide and wild. "Ethan!" she gasped, her breathing ragged. Pain shot through him. "Jenna!" He moved to reach for her, but she held up a blood-stained hand. "Wait!" The next words tore open the world around him. I know everything." The words echoed like gunfire. His heart dropped. "What do you mean?" Panic clawed at him. "About Mia, about the baby, about why you really left me." Her voice was a mix of fear and accusation. "I had to find out. I had to know why you abandoned us both." Stunned, Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him. Waves of disbelief crashed over him. "I never abandoned you. I thought you were happy," she interrupted bitterly. "With the life I built, without you. Is that why you kept things from me?" He searched her face, desperate for some glimmer of hope, some truth. Then the room shifted again. A nurse ran past them, panic in her eyes. "We've lost the pulse." Ethan's heart seized. "What? Who?" "Your sister!" the nurse yelled over her shoulder. "We need you in the surgery room." Time warped. His life split between two worlds. Jenna gasped, tears brimming in her eyes. "Ethan, don't you see? I'm not just asking you to choose between us. It's bigger than that. You need to make a choice." In that moment, chaos erupted. A loud crash echoed from the surgical room, lights flickering above. Another doctor bolted down the hall, shouting orders. "What's happening?" Ethan shouted, dread pooling in his stomach. Jenna's voice was shaky, equal parts fear and resolve. "You have to decide now, before it's too late." Suddenly, the sirens blared louder, and he glanced back to see Mia being wheeled out, now unconscious. A medic shouted, "Code Blue." Everything froze around him. "No, no." "Ethan," Jenna's voice cracked, her hand grasping his in a shaky grip. "It all leads back to the truth you've buried." His eyes darted between the two women he loved. I don't understand." Then Mia's voice floated through the chaos, weak yet strong. "Ethan, secrets don't heal. They destroy." A chill ran through him. Shadows loomed, and in that instant he realized. There was more at stake than he'd ever understood. Echoes of long-buried truths threatened to rise, ready to obliterate their fragile lives. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden tremor shook the ground, a sharp crack resonating through the air. The lights above flickered violently, and a surge of energy pulsed through the hospital. Ethan stumbled back, heart racing, caught in a storm of fear and confusion. Everything he thought he knew was falling apart. In the midst of poignant chaos, Jenna's voice broke through again, filled with an urgency that sent shivers down his spine. "You have to know, one of us isn't who you think." His breath hitched, the room spun, his reality blurring with shock. "What do you mean?" And in that pivotal moment, uncertainty hung heavy in the air, the foundation of everything he believed beginning to crack. Where would the truth lead him? What lies had entwined their lives together? Ethan stood at the edge, wavering, desperate to know the answer, the question twisting like a knife in his heart. What secrets loomed just out of reach? Ethan stood there, heart racing, grappling with the chaos unraveling before him. Mia's eyes burned with a mix of fear and clarity, and Jenna, bloodied and trembling, was a whirlwind of accusations and desperation. "One of us isn't who you think," she shouted, her face pale, caught in the horror of what had just unfolded. Nothing made sense. His heart raced. Was he losing both of them?
The air was heavy, thick with dread, as the hospital around him felt like it was shaking, crumbling beneath the weight of revelations that threatened to drown him. And then, a voice echoed from down the hall. "Dr. Cole, we need you." Ethan turned sharply, propelled by urgency and dread. The medic's voice was frantic, a plea that ripped through the tension. It cut through the chaos like a knife. "It's your sister. We need you now." Panic clawed at him. "What's happening to
Jenna?" He pushed past the medic but was stopped short when another nurse rushed past him, sweat glistening on her brow. "Code Blue, we've lost her." His breath hitched and he felt the world tilt. All thoughts of revealing the truth crashed like waves against a wall. He turned to see Mia's face crumple, her realization crashing over her like ice-cold water. "Ethan, you have to help her." "No, don't go." The words tore from his throat, more of a plea than a command. But then, a scream erupted from Jenna, a raw, desperate sound that pierced through the air. "Ethan, help me!" Her cry fluttered around them, winding like smoke. For a heartbeat, he felt his world collapse. A mixture of love, guilt, and terror twisted within him. He was in a nightmare, two women, both fighting for their lives, and he was paralyzed. Then, with a sudden jolt, a flash of gray light erupted from the surgical area, blinding and bright. The overhead lights flickered violently, casting strange shadows on the walls as a deafening bang reverberated through the corridor. Ethan stumbled back, heart thudding in his chest. "What the?" he gasped. Another loud crash echoed, reshaping his fear into something new, something primal. Pieces of the ceiling began to crumble, debris raining down as the chaos unfolded. Panic surged among the staff, everyone scrambling for safety. And then from the dust and chaos, a tall figure emerged, shrouded in smoke, an imposing silhouette that seemed to breach the realm of reality. It stepped into the flickering light, face hidden beneath a cap, a weapon glimmering in its grasp. Time slowed, heartbeats pausing as Ethan felt icy dread wrapping around him. "Everyone back away," a voice bellowed, the words sharp and commanding. Ethan's stomach dropped. "What is happening?" he whispered, fear trickling down his spine. "Get everyone out, now." The figure lunged forward, and a panic-stricken nurse stumbled, crashing into a cart, knocking instruments across the floor with a terrifying clatter. Mia clutched her stomach, eyes wide with shock as the reality around them morphed into chaos. Screams of panic, urgent calls for help, the once sterile space, now a battlefield. "Ethan, you have to protect our baby," she shouted, voice veering into a scream. In that instant, he realized this wasn't just about choosing between life and death. It was about survival. Lives were at stake. In a way he had never imagined, Jenna's face swirled into focus, her accusations, the blood on her hands, and the truth she held. His choices had consequences, far beyond anything he realized. "Ethan, what do we do?" Jenna's voice trembled, laced with fear, pulling him back to her. And then, almost as if time rewound, that same dark shadow flickered close, a flash of anger dancing in those eyes hidden beneath the cap. "I know your secrets, Ethan Cole. You're not the man you pretend to be." Every word felt like a dagger, each syllable thrusting deeper into the nightmarish reality of the moment. His mind was reeling. Who was this person? What did they know? The room swirled around him, confusion enveloping him as chaos reigned, heartbeat pounding in his ears. They were on the precipice of disaster, and choices hung heavy in the air. Would he run toward the unspeakable danger, or stay to confront the shadows that had haunted him for years? Ethan felt the pull of dread and determination clash violently within him. "Ethan, what are you going to do?" Mia's voice was filled with panic, desperation tightening her features. And in that suspended moment, with darkness closing in, Ethan inhaled sharply, ready to face everything he hadn't wanted to confront. Where would this lead him? That truth beckoned, dangerous and intoxicating. Ethan stood frozen, his heart hammering as every eye in the room trained on him. Mia's desperate gaze pierced through the chaos, while Jenna's bloodied hands trembled as she reached for him. "Ethan, don't you see? One of us isn't who you think." The urgency in her voice clawed at his mind, a warning laced with trembling fear. He opened his mouth to respond, but a sudden explosion shook the room, a loud bang that echoed like a thunderclap. Light flickered overhead, and the walls seemed to tremble. It was chaos, a frenzy of movement and sound crashing over them like an unstoppable wave. "Get down," someone shouted, as a ceiling tile broke free, a shower of dust and debris raining down. Ethan instinctively ducked, fear flooding through him as he reached for Mia, his instinct drawing him to protect her first. But as his hand grasped her wrist, he felt a sharp pain slice through his arm, and he stumbled back, glancing down to find a shard of metal embedded in the skin. "Ethan!" Mia screamed, her eyes wide with horror, but his attention was ripped away by the sight of Jenna, her expression twisting in confusion. "I didn't want to bring this out, but you need to listen," she cried, blood trickling from her temple. "What are you talking about?" His voice came out strangled, torn between pain and panic. Suddenly, another loud bang echoed through the corridor, louder this time, shaking the very air around them. Ethan turned, dread pooling in his stomach. A figure burst through the door, a woman, breathless and frantic, her eyes wide with terror. "Everyone, evacuate! We have a situation!" His heart raced. "What kind of situation?" he shouted back, desperate to know. "Active shooter, get out now!" The panic in her voice could have cut through stone, mounting the fear around him as the gravity of her words sunk in. "Mia, stay close," he shouted, grabbing her hand. Panic rippled through the room, frantic murmurs skimming the surface, a dangerous knot tightening in his gut. "Ethan," Jenna called with urgency, eyes darting toward the chaos. "I need to tell you the truth about—" But before she could finish, the lights flickered again. Suddenly, another shot rang out, echoing like a chilling scream. It was followed by another. Ethan's heart dropped. Adrenaline surged through him as he pulled Mia closer. "We need to move!" "Wait!" Jenna cried, her voice rising in panic. "You have to know about the baby!" His heart raced. What about the baby? The question hung between them, thick and unanswered. Just then, a figure hopped into view, a tall man, panic flashing in his eyes. "She's not your sister," he shouted, voice cutting through the cacophony. Everyone froze, eyebrows furrowing, uncertainty shadowing their faces. "What?" Ethan gasped, feeling the ground shift beneath him. "It's true. Those paternity tests. It was never Jenna. She's your cousin, not your sister." The room spun, the revelation hitting like a freight train. Questions exploded in Ethan's mind, unraveling the fragile threads of his family. "What?" he barely managed, his chest tightening. Jenna's face crumbled, shock and denial mixing on her features. "No, that can't be right." But the man stepped closer, his face pale as he continued. "Your mother had reasons, things you didn't know. You were kept apart to protect, to hide realities you can't begin to understand." Each word sent tremors through Ethan's resolve. It shattered everything he thought he knew. "You're lying," he shouted, mind racing to make sense of it all. The chaos escalated around them. Another shot rang out. Panic fanned the flames in the air as screams filled the space. "We need to get out now," someone shouted again. But Ethan felt rooted in place, the truth rolling over him like a tempest. What had he just discovered? It rattled him, exposing vulnerabilities he never anticipated facing. "Ethan, we have to leave," Mia urged, gripping his hand tighter, pulling him toward the door. The walls hummed with a sense of dread. "But what if it's true? What if none of this is what I thought?" His voice cracked, fear finally breaking through. "Does it even matter?" "Now," she snapped, urgency boiling in her tone, eyes filled with fear. "Lives are at stake. We have to survive." As another shot fired in the distance, Ethan felt his entire world teetering on the precipice. Could he even trust his own memories now? How had everything come undone so quickly? In an instant, he forced himself to move, torn between the truth and survival. The world outside felt like a storm ready to swallow them whole. He had to protect Mia, but where did that leave him? With the weight of betrayal smothering his heart? "No!" The scream ripped from Jenna's throat as she toppled backward,
the sound freezing him in place. Was she next? What would this make of his life? In a heartbeat, the space around him blurred. Uncertainty closing in. Choices spread out before him, darker than ever. And as he opened his mouth, voices collided, the truth still haunting him. A secret that could either save them or destroy them all. Which path would he choose? Ethan stood frozen, heart racing as the weight of Jenna's revelation hung in the air like a thick fog. "What did you just say?" he breathed, feeling the ground shift beneath his feet. "You can't be serious." But before Jenna could respond, another loud bang reverberated through the corridor, followed by a shriek that echoed against the sterile walls. Ethan's head snapped toward the source of the noise, adrenaline surging through him. A nurse rushed by, her face pale, frantic. "Evacuate! Everyone, get out now!" Mia's grip tightened around his arm, her voice shaking. "Ethan, we need to go, now." But the urgency in Jenna's eyes held him in place, confusion and dread waging war in his mind. "I need to know the truth," he shouted back at her, panic rising, drowning out the chaos around them. "Are you telling me that you're not my sister?" Jenna's face crumpled, torn between fear and determination. "It's more complicated than you think. You don't understand. Your whole family lied to you." "Lied?" Ethan felt his insides twist painfully, the words slicing through him like glass. "What are you saying, Jenna?" Suddenly another shot rang out, clearer, nearer. A wave of panic crashed over him. "We have to move," he cried, dragging Mia toward the nearest exit, but not before catching a glimpse of Jenna's face, an expression of pure heartbreak. Then it happened. The lights flickered violently before plunging them into darkness. Screams erupted, chaos unfurled into a storm around them. He stumbled, disoriented, the sharp sounds of struggle punctuating the fear. "Mia, where are you?" he shouted, but the sound was swallowed by the darkness. He could feel the air thickening, the press of bodies around him. "Stay close!" And then an unexpected voice rang out from the dark, cutting through the chaos. "Ethan, help me!" He stepped forward, recognizing the voice. It was Jenna. Eyes straining, he reached out, trying to find her, but then something else grabbed his attention. A figure stepped out of the shadows, face shrouded beneath a dark hood, eyes glinting with a cold fire. "Stay away from her," it hissed, voice low and oily. Just as he took a step back, a flicker of light illuminated the space, catching the man's face briefly. Ethan's breath hitched in disbelief. It was his father, standing there, alive after all these years. "Dad?" The word escaped his lips before he could stop it, hope mingling with confusion. He had watched that man leave him once, leaving a void too heavy to bear, and now he was standing here, in this hellish moment. "Ethan, listen to me," his father shouted. "This is bigger than you think." "What? What does that even mean?" Ethan shot back, his heart hammering, torn between shock and anger. Before his father could explain, a loud crash echoed through the room, and tension rippled. Time felt suspended as eye contact shifted, a new level of urgency creeping in. The moment stretched, breath hitching in collective anticipation. "Ethan," his father surged forward, determination mingling with desperation. "You're in danger. We all are. You need to know about the baby before it's too late." "What are you talking about?" Ethan felt the walls closing in, ready to collapse under the weight of revelations he feared. What baby? But before he could grasp the weight of his father's words, another scream cut through the tension, a voice echoing with fear and pain. "Ethan, help. She's struggling." His mind raced, connecting dots too quickly for his heart to follow. "Mia," he shouted, but panic clawed at him. The connection felt frayed. "You mean Mia?" His father nodded solemnly, eyes wide. "It's why the truth matters. You need to understand what's happening." Ethan's world spiraled, lost, in tumultuous thoughts. "What truth?" he demanded, desperate for clarity, but a sudden shudder surged through the building, rattling the ground. Then a sharp crack filled the air, as if the universe itself had splintered. All the lights went out completely. Silence shrouded them like a heavy blanket.
broken only by a distant, muffled laugh, echoing and haunting. The realization struck him hard, a bone-chilling blow. He had thought they were fighting for their lives, but now it felt like something darker was at play. He was caught in a web woven with lies, betrayal, and a hidden enemy playing a game he didn't understand. "Ethan!" The voices spun into a cacophony around him. The shout of his father, the cry from Jenna, the desperate whispers of Mia. Fear wrapped around his heart like
A vice. You need to decide. Decide.
But who was he really protecting now? In that moment, he felt the weight of every choice he had ever made crushing down on him. The truth waited, twisted and terrible in the shadows, ready to upend everything he believed. And somewhere, deep down, he knew the true danger wasn't what faced them. It was what would be revealed among the ruins. As the darkness pressed in, his heart thundered with dread. What more could he lose? And what other secrets lay hidden, ready to tear his world apart? Ethan stood there, breathless, emotions twisting like vines. Jenna's words lingered, each syllable thick with impending truths. A torrent of noise surrounded them, cries, chaos, fear. But it was Jenna's accusation that echoed in his mind. "One of us
Isn't who you think." Before he could reply, the lights shuddered, flickered, then plunged the space into darkness. A tense silence enveloped them, hearts hammering as fear pulsed like a living thing. His senses heightened. He could hear the soft sobbing of nurses, the scuffling of shoes, the pounding of adrenaline. "Ethan!" Mia shouted, her voice strained, cutting through the heavy silence. "What's happening?" "Stay close," he yelled back, reaching for her hand, their fingers intertwining like lifelines. But he could feel the tremor in her grip, the desperation that surged with each heartbeat. Just then, a loud crash reverberated from the back of the room. A medical cart toppled, instruments clattering to the floor, a jarring sound that pierced the air. "Get back!" a voice barked, and Ethan turned to see the shadow of a man rushing toward them, energy crackling like static. "Mia, run!" He pushed her instinctively, pulling her toward the nearest exit. But something stopped him. That man's eyes, flashing, wild, filled with fury, locked onto Ethan, unnerving. "Ethan, you have to listen," Jenna called, her voice shaky, trembling under the weight of urgency. "You're in danger." But before he could process her words, the lights flickered back on, flooding the room with harsh brightness. And then it happened. A loud, deafening explosion rang out, a shockwave erupting through the corridor. Ethan felt it, felt the heat, the push of air against him. He stumbled back, shielding Mia as pieces of the ceiling rained down like confetti of despair. Panic erupted. "Everyone down," someone shouted, and bodies went crashing to the floor. Mia, Ethan, grasped her arm as they hit the ground, hearts pounding in sync. Dust clouded his vision. "Stay with me." In that chaos, Jenna's voice filtered through, rising above the din. "Ethan, I know you have questions." But a shape blurred in the smoke, a figure silhouetted against the chaos. The air shimmered with tension as it stepped forward, revealing itself, and Ethan's blood chilled. It was his mother. "Mom?" His voice echoed disbelief. She looked older, eyes shadowed with anguish. "After all these years, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to save you, Ethan. You need to know the truth." Her voice trembled, cracking under the weight of her own pain. "Save me? From what?" A flashlight beam pierced through the smoke, illuminating her face, revealing eyes filled with a darkness that twisted his gut. From the past, from what's coming, it's all connected. He felt the ground shift beneath him again, like reality itself was unraveling. "What did you mean by that?" She stepped forward, urgency spilling from her. "Your sister, she was never who you thought she was. You have to understand, Jenna was meant to." But before she could finish, another deafening sound exploded, echoing through the hall, sending everyone into a frenzy. "Get everyone out!" Someone shouted again, urgency spilling into the chaos. Then it clicked. Ethan's heart dropped. The truth. His mother's name had always been cloaked in secrecy. Jenna.
Was she really his sister? Or was there more? Mia, are we safe? Ethan turned to the woman beside him, desperately searching her eyes. But before she could answer, the voice of a man, hoarse and gravelly, rang out through the dust. Time's up. The choice is yours. Ethan whipped around to see the man who had charged toward them, now teetering dangerously on the edge of betrayal. You can't trust any of them, he growled, spitting out words like venom. You think you know the story? You're in deeper than you realize. Jenna's eyes widened, shock evident. What do you know? He stepped closer, menacingly, as the tension peaked. Everything. Bloodlines are tangled, secrets run deep. You've been played. Ethan felt the air around him crackle like fire. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown, a violent storm brewing on the horizon. Information flooded in, too rapidly to grasp. His mother's confession hung there, a thread he didn't know he was pulling. What are you saying? And as the dust settled, a chilling realization struck. He was standing on the brink of an avalanche, relationships fraying like old ropes. Each word could unravel everything he thought he knew. Figure it out, Ethan, the man yelled, poison in his tone, or you might lose more than just a family. The world spun, and for a moment, everything came together. Secrets laid bare before him. He just had to choose how to face them. But the deeper truth remained hidden, swirling around him like shadows in the light. What had he stumbled into? What dark legacy was waiting to be unveiled? The very fabric of his existence shook, and he stood there, heart racing, gasping for answers as the unknown loomed large in his mind. Ethan stood there, breathless, every word flickering in his mind like a dying light. One of us isn't who you think, Jenna's voice echoed, resonating with deep, unsettling truth. But before he could fully process it all, panic surged as dust swirled through the air, mixed with fear, danger seeping in like a chill. Mia, stay close, he shouted, gripping her hand tighter, instinct driving him to shield her from whatever horror lurked in the shadows. Jenna approached, urgency etched across her face, her eyes wide as she whispered, "You have to understand. It's not just lies, it's blood, our blood." What do you mean? Ethan's heart raced as another loud crash reverberated through the corridor. His mind spun, trying to piece together her words over the chaos. Ethan, we need to go, Mia urged, her voice steady even beneath the fright. She was trying to hold it together, and the determination in her eyes anchored him a little. I can't leave her, he shot back, glancing between Mia and Jenna. The tension crackled. Then an unsettling silence settled in, stretching as if time itself had paused. Your whole family, it's a cover-up, Jenna continued, stepping closer, her breath quickening. You need to know, she took my place. She's... Before she could finish, the ground beneath them lurched violently, the lights flickered, dimmed, then flared back to life with an electric snap. Instinctively, Ethan shielded Mia, heart pounding. Run! Someone screamed from the back, and suddenly, figures were rushing, faces masked by fear, desperation colliding in pulses of chaos. Amidst the fray, Ethan locked eyes with his mother, her face a mixture of regret and determination. Ethan, I'm sorry. I never wanted this. What is happening? His voice cracked as his heart raced faster than logic could catch. The room buzzed with whispers and fearful eyes darting around them. I'll explain later, but first, you need to choose, she shouted, urgency lacing her words. Choose? Choose what? I can't choose between you, he replied, feeling lost, like a kid again, searching for a way home, without any signs to guide him. Then the lights flickered again. But this time, it wasn't the chaos of the hospital. A deep, unsettling crack echoed from above. Ethan looked up, dread pooling in his gut. In a flash, the ceiling gave way, a cascade of debris. Crashing down. Mia. He dove to protect her, pushing her out of the way. The weight of his body shielded hers as dust clouded the air, choking him momentarily. When he looked up, everything felt surreal. The room had changed. Where there once was frantic energy, there now lingered an eerie stillness. And then, through the smoke and chaos, a figure emerged. Tall and cloaked in darkness, standing against the light. But as the figure stepped into the brightness, Ethan's heart dropped. It was Jenna. But something was wrong. Her eyes burned with a different kind of fury. "You have to understand what I am." What? Confusion racked his thoughts. The ground under him felt unsteady. "I'm the one who was meant to survive," she said, her voice sharp yet pained. "The truth is, I'm your sister. Your mother, she made a mistake. She switched us at birth." The world tilted. Jenna's words sliced through the air, leaving a raw, gaping wound in the fabric of Ethan's reality. "No, you can't be serious." I didn't want to believe it either. But all those years, the whispers, the secrets, it was their way of protecting you. Her voice trembled, cracking under the pressure. Ethan felt a lump forming in his throat. The darkness loomed as inconceivable confusion twisted within him, ripping apart the threads of his life. "So, you're not my cousin? Mia is the one who's really?" Jenna's eyes softened, but before she could finish her sentence, another loud crash echoed, pulling both of their gazes. Mia! The name escaped his lips. Panic, surging. He whipped around to see a cloud of dust and debris falling, engulfing her in the choking dark. Through the haze, that familiar scream sliced through. Raw, urgent, wrenching. "Ethan, help, please!" Heart pounding, Ethan ran toward the sound, dread clawing at his insides. As he emerged from the cloud, he saw Mia struggling beneath the rubble. His breath hitched, but as he reached for her, something flickered in the corner of his eye. A truth lurking just out of reach, a face in the crowd. He turned to see his father, still present, standing there with wild eyes. "You won't understand until it's too late." "Understand what?" Ethan's voice trembled, filled with desperation. The weight of the world pressed down on him. Secrets, lies, revelations spinning through his mind like a broken carousel. Everything was hurtling toward a dark climax. What had he really stumbled into? And who was he really amid all this chaos? The truth beckoned, fierce and unyielding, ready to tear apart the last shreds of his reality. And just as he reached out to grasp Mia's hand, darkness surged forward, swallowing all hope in a single heartbeat. Ethan's heart raced as he dove toward Mia, pulling her from beneath the debris. The weight of their chaotic reality crashing down around them. Dust filled the air, mingling with the taste of fear on his lips. He could barely see through the haze, but her eyes met his, wide and desperate. "Please, don't let me lose you," she gasped, her grip tightening around his wrist, as if holding on to life itself. "I won't. I promise. I won't let you go." His voice cracked, the desperation twisting in his chest as he pulled her upright, pushing through the thick remnants of the ceiling. Somewhere behind him, Jenna stirred, her voice soft yet urgent. "Ethan, you need to listen. Everything you think you know, it's about to change." "Not now," he shouted, quickening his pace with Mia beside him, moving away from the collapsing chaos. The heat of the moment twisted and turned, leaving no room for doubt. They had to escape. "Mia," Ethan said, glancing back, "we'll figure this out later. We have to find a way out." The hospital hallways swirled with panic, shouts, crying, the metallic clank of medical tools scattering across the floor, manifesting the urgency of the situation. But as they pushed forward, his mother stepped into their path, face drawn and anxious. "Ethan, you can't trust Jenna. It's all lies." "What?" The world spun, anger and confusion mixing toxic in his veins. "Do you even realize what's happening? We're running for our lives." "I'm trying to save you," she cried, desperation layering her voice. "The truth. You're not only tied to your sister by blood, but there's something much deeper and darker that binds us." "No, I won't listen to any more secrets," Ethan barked, his chest heaving with rage and the weight of loss.
You kept me in the dark for too long.
Then a siren wailed in the distance, urgent and piercing.
Ethan, Jenna shouted, stepping closer, her voice trembling. If we don't confront this together, we might never be able to fix it.
We need to deal with the truth. But he felt the floor tremble beneath them again, as if the hospital itself were protesting this confrontation, the very foundation rattled by hidden forces. He could feel Mia's anxiety surge beside him, her breaths coming in quick, shallow gasps.
Ethan,
Mia's voice trembled, fear etching her features. We need to go, now. But Jenna's words hung heavy. He could feel that familiar knot in his stomach. The unshakable feeling that his world was woven with darkness and secrets. He released Mia's hand for a split second, taking a decisive step closer to Jenna.
Tell me now, what do I need to know?
With fiery intensity, Jenna replied, Your mother isn't the only one with secrets. Our family
has been hiding the truth to protect you, but it was only ever specific parts of it, not the whole. You need to know who you really are. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, illuminating faces twisted in fear and uncertainty. He glanced back at Mia, whose eyes were filled with dread, searching for assurance in the chaos. A final crash resounded as chaos erupted. Ethan stepped back, the weight of Jenna's confession crashing down around him like a weight of aching inevitability.
Mia, he shouted, desperately pulling her closer.
As a gust of wind swept through the entryway, causing the air to rip around them, he could feel a surge of hope flickering at the edge of desperation. If they even made it out alive, could they really confront all of this together? But before he could finish, sirens blared faster, louder.
Go, Mia screamed, her face pale with panic. We need to get out now.
Together they charged down the hallway toward freedom, the air heavy as they burst through the exit. Outside, the sun shone brightly against the grim interior of the hospital. Ethan took a deep breath, the weight on his shoulders feeling just a little lighter as he grasped Mia's hand fiercely. As they stepped away from the door, they found Jenna lingering just behind them, her face full of emotion.
I won't give up on you either. I'll find a way to prove this, all of it, she called, determination mingled with sorrow. Ethan turned to her, their gazes locked. We'll face this together, Jenna. One way or another, we'll figure out the truth. And with Mia beside him, he knew they could not only survive, but also rebuild. The road ahead would no longer hold shadows, but the bright possibility of understanding and healing. Together, they walked forward into the light, knowing that every secret revealed would only serve to strengthen the ties that had unknowingly bound them. Also, you have to subscribe right now, so you don't miss any of the next exclusive stories.
Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Show your support, and don't wait even one more second to share this.